Welcome everybody to the weekly share of Zera Shimshon. I'm Yosef Lange, and this is the 5th day of Av Tafshin Pei, and it's the yard site for the Arizal, so we'll do it Ilui Nishmasai, Rabbi Chaim Kanievski as well. So there should be a schus Yogin Aleina V'Kol Yisrael. This is Kapitel Gimel in the Zera Shimshon and Devarim. And I'm bringing a Yalkut Shimoini in Devarim, Remesh Tav Aleph, 801. And the pasuk it says, Eichel Asa Levadi. So it's a mashal lamatrena. This is a little story that talks about a matroness that Hayulo, she had three shleisha shushbinim, three accompaniers that helped her. Echad Ra Isa B'Shalvasa. One saw her when she was in her peaceful state. Echad Ra Isa B'Pachaza, and one saw her in her, in her unstable state. The Echad Ra Isa B'Navala, and another one saw her when she was totally in the ditches, completely disarranged. Kach Moshe Ra Yisrael B'Shalvasam. So Moshe saw the Jewish people when they had their peaceful state. They just got out of Egypt. They were all taken care of in every possible way in the desert. Water, man, slav, whatever they had for 40 years. So he said, how can I bear you? Yeshaya saw them when they were when they were in their unstable state. So he says, how could she be turning into a harlot? And Yirmiyahu saw them when they were totally disarranged. Or deranged, maybe. Where do you sit alone in bidud? Right? Everybody knows that word now. So how can I bear you? That was Moshe Rabbeinu said. And this teaches us that they were bothersome. They always so he sees somebody brings them to judgment, and he says somebody is winning over in him in the judgment in the courts. He says Yesh li eidim lehavi. He says I have other witnesses I can bring that I was right. Yesh li rayos lehavi. L'machar ani dan musfani aleichem dayanim. So the next day he comes and he brings more proofs, and he wants to add on the judges. He doesn't like the judges, whatever. Keeps bothering everybody. As you were bothersome to me. They were bothersome. Masachem, what does that mean? Masachem is be bearing. It's to bear your burden. This teaches that they were apekorsim. I can translate that. They were not faithful to their faith. Higdim Moshe Letzeis Omar Lama Ra Ben Amram Letzeis. So Moshe Rabbeinu got up to go out of the court, and he said, "What are you leaving for?" Shema Eino Shafui B'Teich Beisa. Maybe it's not nice. Something's going on in his house. Acher Letzeis Omar. After he went out, he says, "Ma Acher Ben Amram Letzeis." So. What did he have to go out for? What did he go for? Atem savurim yoshev yoyetz aleim eitzos, amachashev aleichem machshavos. Do you think he's thinking about you? He's thinking about eitzos, about how to help you. Kal v'chaymeim hayam mashal mishal beis oven ke'inyan shein oin ben pelas b'nei Ruvain ben b'yadua she'ish le'sha'alat v'ya'atzasai. So this is even worse. It means going to take counsel with his wife, like Ben Pelas, that he was saved from the dastardly concepts of Koirach by his wife stepping in and asking him, what do you want with these people? Lakach Nersa, number said Nermar, it says Masachem Lelamid Shahayu Apikorsim. So they were an apikorsim defined in the Gemara, and Sanhedrin says that somebody who is mevaza, Talmid Chacham, is an epikar. So don't think that they just had, funny ideas about their religion. No. If somebody who's mevaza, Talmid Chacham, is an epikar. halachically. V'rivichem, the third thing is you were fighting, quarreling. Melamed shahil meragnim hayo acher mehem echad mehem moitzi msela b'shvil litol shnayim. So one is, he says, he was trying to, in the courts again, he was trying to take one sela because he needs two. Shnayim b'shvil litol shleisha, he said, I need two because he needed three. So they were always complaining, they were always causing trouble. Okay, so here's what the Zera Shimshon said. Why did he put these three opinions together? It's very strange. Yesh Leimer, the Gemara in the Sanhedrin, Daf Gimel Omid Aleph says, Yesh Kama Chilukim Be'inyan HaDayanim. There's different types of Dayanim, there's different types of judges. Rabbi Acha Svirale, the Chad Kosher Ladun Midaraisa. So one person is kosher to judge Midaraisa. With the Ksiv, it says in Vayikra, but Tzedek Tishbot Amisecha. So it's talking to an individual, a soul judge is able to judge Midaraisa. V'chein Pirush HaRambam Perek Beis Mehilchos Sanhedrin Halacha Yod, Aval B'Shora Eino Kosher. But to make a compromises, one person is not good enough. V'chein Pasuk HaRav, the Rav is a Rambam, he paskins in Perek Beis Mehilchos Sanhedrin, Ein Sham B'Kesav Mishnah Shagam HaRif Soiver Kain, the Rif also holds like that. Im Kain Moshe HaYaroya Be'atzmai Shelo HaYachal Asais B'Shora. But Moshe Rabbeinu thought to himself he couldn't make a compromise. As Lefi Svaras HaRif in the Rambam, according to the Rif in the Rambam, the Gam Kain HaYayari Melasais Din, he was also afraid to do a judgment. The Isa Shaman Sanhedrin Kaidim Shetishma Devarim, before you hear their words, or Kaidim Sheteda Heichan Din Naita, or before you know which way the din is tilting, oy im tisyare pen yia echad chazak ve'echad rafa, she's chayiv ha-chazak ve'ha-yedafcha. Maybe maybe he's afraid that the one person will be very strong, the other person will be weak, and he'll commit, or the person that's strong, he will make chayiv, he'll obligate him, and then he'll start chasing after him, threaten him. Like we unfortunately know that happens today. So he's possible to make the pshara, the compromise, or remove himself from the judgment. Omar Moshe, how can I judge you? So all the three things that force a judge to make a compromises, so all three you have, that the Jewish people. He says, it says you're bothersome all the time, making tzoros. I got proofs of being, I got witnesses, shakranim. That's similar to after he hears their words. Iato, Yodea, he doesn't know, where is this going to end up? How are we going to paskin? Moshe could never figure out what the din would be. That's the first part, torchachem, because they keep bothering him, changing the witnesses and making him the case drag out. Okay, and then ma'asachem, what does that mean? Your burden. Omru Midrash says hikdi Moshe letzeis. So Moshe went out, tried to go out. Omru ma'aro lehakdim ole acher letzeis. Shehu Yosef v'yoyitz aleichem ra. So why is he going out now? Why is he coming back? He's probably taking counsel for your detriment. Ol kaman shahayo yore pen yirdafu mi kol mishin is chayav b'gedin. But in front of us, he'll may obligate the wrong person, and he'll chase him in judgment, and attempt to murder him. So he teaches us that they were deniers of the faith. So like I said before, apikoros is somebody that uses disgraces a Talmid Chacham. The hovo mechatzve or mevazu es Moshe. They disgraced Moshe. They were mevazim. They disgraced him in public. Rivechem. What's the third word? You're arguing. You're argumentative. Midrash says shahayu meragnim. They were constantly complaining and more complaining. He wasn't obligated to judge them, even to hear their words. The pshora So a pshora, a compromise you can't do because you can't do a pshora when you're individual, one judge. So therefore he rebuked the Jewish people and said, what can I do for you? You don't want, you're bothersome, you're bothering me, you're bothering everybody. I'll say, well, Aaron, you should get a different base then and bring Aaron in. So what do we need? Experts. We can bring in whoever judges you want. So he said the whole reason why you're coming to judgment is because you're bothersome in the first place. But are you chutzufim, you're audacious. Nimsa she'ikar kavanas Moshe haisa leimar shehem hayu aziponim kenira behapshar. So you can see that the Moshe Rabbeinu held they had azizponim, which means brazen-faced people, and it looked like they didn't even want to make a compromise anyway. Ashto sheMoshe she'omar Hashem aziponim. So now that Moshe said they had a brazen face, Af Yeshaya Omar Shehem aziponim. So Yeshaya also said the same thing. They were brazen faced. She'omar Shakadosh Bo Girsham. They said God threw us out of the land. Ve'ein lahem zeh al zeh klum. And we don't have one and another anything. That means there's no tightness on one another. So that they wouldn't be considered a zayna. That means we're considered the marriage between God and the Klal Yisrael, like a marriage. That's always, it's a namashal. The Garsina Perek Beis, the Meseches Ksubis, it says in Naf Chav Beis, Amad Beis, Omer Rav Hamnuna, Aisha She'omer Labalo Girash Tani. A woman says to her husband in the courts, okay, you divorced me. And Ne'amenes, she's believed. Because there's a chazaka that is a strong, substantial evidence that she will not be a chutzpanyak in front of her husband. When is that? The komisayla. But that's when she doesn't have witnesses, usually false witnesses, that support her evidence. The komisayla smichas alayhu meiza. So what she has witnesses that would support her, that says she was divorced, even though her husband said, I didn't divorce you, well, then she will be meiz upon him. She will have azas upon him to her husband. Lachein Omar Yeshayahu, the Knesset Yisrael, therefore Yeshayahu said to Knesset Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Omar Shaloi Gerashich, I didn't divorce you. Ve'ata Omeres Gerushani, why are you saying that you're divorced, that God divorced you? No, we didn't. God didn't divorce us. We're not thrown out from being Jewish. No. So he said in Yeshaya, where's your mother's divorce papers? In other words, where's Knesset Yisrael's divorce papers from God? He never did it. We should divorce. We should believe her. You don't have witnesses. So when there's no witnesses, you could be believed, right? But here it's the media of Klal Yisrael that Moshe Rabbeinu was rebuking them about, that they had azas panim, and Yeshaya said the same thing. So how can I alone bear you? So you cannot, we don't believe the Jewish people to say that she was divorced from God. That even here, you could say that the Knesset Yisrael had azas panim to God. Omar Yirmiyahu, im kain, she zayna, shaloi nizgarsha. If so, technically speaking, the Klal Yisrael is a harlot. But he nisei sacher, and she's married to somebody else now, another religion. or another political group. Echa Yasha Badad Haisa Kalmana. So this says in Parshat, in the Echa, how could she be sitting like an almana? It doesn't say like a grusha. It says almana. Because she has to get divorced from both parties. She's prohibited to get married to either one. So it's like an almana, but not completely an almana. Okay. Now, Rabbi Nachman Seltzer brings a story in the Segulos this week, which is very good. And he says, as I mentioned earlier, there are countless Magidi Shir who go out of their way to deliver Shirim from the Sefer Zera Shimshon all over the world. They do this because they feel an achrayus to their brothers and sisters and want to help them in any way possible. By the way, as a side note, I'm still saying Tillim for Dr. Zev Ben Leah Zelenko, so you should have her for Shalema. So one such Magid Shir is Rabbi Liao Gross, Rosh Kolo of Zvichen Shmuel, from Amat Beit Shemesh. Rabbi Gross delivers a shir in Zera Shimshon via Skype to a group of Talmidim in Gibraltar, which includes people from other countries, England, USA, France, and Eretz Israel. The shir is delivered in English and is also uploaded onto Kol Aloshan. The shir is delivered, now you can go and look at that, probably better shir that I give. Okay, the shir is delivered every Monday and Thursday. Rabbi Gross has 3 chavrusas who help him prepare these extremely successful bi-weekly shirim, which boast quite a few participants. One of these chavrusas, who a friend named Rab Tawil, is a kohen who has been learning with Rabbi Gross for many years. That Rab Tawil is a pseudonym, of course. When they began learning together, Rab Tawil mentioned to Rabbi Gross that he was hoping to see a Yeshua in the Indian of Parnassa. He'd heard about how numerous people had been on the receiving end of all sorts of Yeshuas, and he hoped that learning the Sefer would be a zechus for him as well. About a month and a half after the two began learning together, Rabbi Gross asked his chavrusa how things were going financially. "It's funny you should ask," Reb Towil replied. "What do you mean? As a kohen, I have a source of revenue that's unavailable to the average individual." "What's that?" Rabbi Leib said. "I can perform pidyon haben for people who need to redeem their firstborn children. However, there are a lot of kohanim in Eretz Yisrael and not that many people celebrating pidyon haben. It's also going to be a firstborn boy. At best, I was being asked to officiate at a pidyon haben once and every half a year, and even less frequently. But in the last month and a half, since we began learning Zera Shimshon together, I've been asked to serve as a kohen at a pidyon haben no less than 6 times. Okay? Month and a half, 6 times. That's just about once a week, right? Being that a kohen is paid 500 or 600 shekels at a time, I made an extra 3,000 shekels in 6 weeks alone. There is no question in my mind that being asked to officiate 6 times a month in a month and a half is not a natural occurrence, and I have been the recipient of an extra special dose of siyata d'shmaya. In an interesting turn of events, the other 2 chavrusas had stories of their own to report. One of them had put his home up on the market and wanted to buy elsewhere. A few days later, he sold his home and bought a new apartment, both on the same day. The third chavrusa was not to be outdone. As you know, he began, "There is no way to mistake me for an Ashkenazi. My skin is dark and my name leaves no doubt of my background or lineage. That said, I have learned in Ashkenazi educational institutions throughout my life and wanted the same for my children. And yet, I know that it can be very difficult getting a child, especially a daughter, into one of the mainstream Israeli high schools. Still, I was determined to try my best to get my daughter accepted. A short while after we began preparing the shiur together, my wife ran into the principal of the high school where we hoped to send our daughter. I'm so happy that we ran into each other," she told my wife. "Why is that?" my wife asked. "Because I heard that you wanted to send your daughter to our school, and I wanted to let you know that she is already accepted, even before the official registration." We were shocked. This was unprecedented and totally unexpected, and it seemed clear to me that the Zera Shimshon had a lot to do with the wonderful news. And so it goes. Another day, another story. I'm including a special postscript by Rabbi Gross. Anybody who would like to join the shiur is asked to please contact Mr. Daniel Spire at ziasgibraltar@gmail.com. Okay, but don't leave my shiur. It's okay. You can listen to that as well. Have a wonderful week, and it should be a a meaningful fast. We should help bring Mashiach Tzidkenu B'mheira V'yameinu.